We're going to look at my top 10 favorite modular sets of all time, and I'm very excited. So up first, what makes a great mod set? We're just going to go through these points super quick, and then we can get into it. For me, I need it to make me feel awesome. If I defeat it and it makes me feel good, great. It kind of comes under the next point, satisfying interactions. But if I just, breeze past something, or it says, something like, oh, discard one card, it's a treachery, and then it's gone, that doesn't make me feel awesome. That just gives me less fun things to do. It's just, whatever. It's not that impactful either. It's just, doesn't do much. But something like Dragon, as you can see on the screen, spoilers, I really like the fantasy mod set. It's a huge problem to get past, but once I get past it, I get rewarded with the cards. That is kind of the pinnacle of awesome. When I say impactful, what I really like is when I put a mod set into the encounter, into the villain's, encounter deck, I want the encounter set to feel different than it would otherwise. Very generic effects aren't going to make much of an impact. If I don't get the right card come up as an encounter card at the right time and it doesn't do anything, that's kind of unfortunate. I'm thinking there are a lot of kind of mini boss modulars where there's a really cool minion and the whole set is based around them, but there's only one copy of them. And if they're a boost card, you don't see them. And I'm like, okay, well, that didn't happen. Boost effects make things more impactful, but also multiple encounter cards that find one encounter card if it's a big part of it, things like that. I would just, want it to make a difference. Unique mechanics, I think, speaks for itself. If it's unique, it's awesome. I want to see more of it. I'm going to use that modular more because no other modular can kind of get me that experience. All those things make things memorable. I think strong theme also just kind of speaks for itself. And I like powerful difficulty adjustment. It doesn't mean all the mods in this video are going to be, ones that are really difficult to make the scenarios more difficult, but that is what I like. So some of them will be mod sets where it's really consistent as increasing the difficulty. I guess it's a combination of, just being difficult mod sets, but also being impactful, being noticeable, and, oh, I discarded this really difficult card, I'm just going to get easy ones now, That doesn't happen with these, and that's what I really like. Up first is Band of Badoon, and I love these little guys. I think people think of this as an easy mod set, but it isn't. Drang, which is where this mod set is normally found, is an easy villain. This mod set is actually probably one of the hardest mod sets for small minions, and that's what makes it so amazing. It's a mod set where if I want to include a bunch of, tiny minions and kind of, get swarmed of things, I can, and it's difficult, relatively. It actually offers quite a good challenge, whereas if I looked at any other mod sets which have a bunch of, 1, 2, 4 health minions, kind of in combination, they're really easy. So this one is really, really good in that respect, and because every single card in this set has a boost effect, and there are 10 cards, you are guaranteed for this mod set, Band of Badoon, to make an impact, which is really, really fun. You cannot play a scenario where they didn't affect it. Celestial Tech is up next, and I would normally say attachments are my least favorite kind of encounter card. Normally they go on the villain, it gets +1 attack. Well, that doesn't matter if I stun them, block with allies, or just have enough defense anyway. You can kind of let them go a lot of the time. Ones which do other nastier things, normally there's some hero action which says, spend these resources and it's gone. And, normally it just comes in, you spend a couple of resources, it's gone, or you just ignore it because it's ignorable. Celestial Tech is a really, really good, attachment modular. Both the attachments cannot be, gotten rid of until they've done their bad thing, and their bad thing does make an impact, and it's really, really interesting. Celestial Weapon is my favorite card from this. It's got 3 different outcomes: deal 2 damage, discard a card, or stun you, or, do all of the above, but, it's kind of cheating. It's a combination of the other 3 options, and it happens when the villain attacks you, and it's only by getting the right outcome here, which is still going to be negative, that you can get rid of it, and that's really good. A normal attachment would only have one of these 3 options, let alone all 3, and you could probably just remove it. This one, 3 fun options, and you have to suffer its effects before you can get rid of it, so it's going to make an impact. And because it has multiple cards called Celestial Tech, quite fittingly, that make you, find one of these upgrades, it always makes an impact because you're gonna very consistently find them. I love the horror modular set. All the modulars from Mojo Mania were really great, but this one, just thematically, is so, so strong. Piercing is already an effect in Marvel Champions. Now, if you hit the vampire with Piercing, the attacks deal double damage. This is genius, and I want the designers, this is my personal request and plea. I want more of this. Enemies where you can hit them with a certain effect, and it might not actually have its normal effect, but it gets a different bonus. Piercing normally bypasses Toughs. You can get the bonus on Vampire, where your Piercing attacks deal double damage, whether it has a Tough or not. That's so cool. It's bringing a complete new dimension to an existing effect, and it's really thematic on top of that, because it's Vampire, stake for the heart, all that kind of thing. So good. Its forced response, very thematic as well. Just really strong, interesting allies throughout this, minions. As villain theory, villain. Sometimes I get minions and allies mixed up. The minions are all really good. And the Kraken is always a huge moment, especially in multiplayer when it arrives. The whole table looks around in fear. Anything that makes a moment is memorable. Moments are memorable. I love memorable moments. Really cool. Super awesome. Streets of Mayhem. It's secret lair. I had to include this. I actually live in a secret lair as villain theory. How much can I milk that? I'm not sure. But genuinely, I love this mod set. I think it's really interesting. So this comes with the hood, and it's got kind of a crime kind of city theme, but you can use this really with anyone, just mechanically. And what it does is when one of these comes up as an encounter card, it's an environment, it gets put into play, and now it changes the game for everyone, for the villain and the players. So an example is the heroes and allies get +1 forwarding, but the enemies gain acceleration icons. There'll always be a villain, so there's always at least one of those. So, both sides are getting a bonus. Sometimes it's more in the player's favor, sometimes it's more in the villain's favor. But in all cases, except maybe, the one that gives, steady if the villain and the heroes aren't really putting out status cards. But otherwise, all of them really make kind of an impact on how you're going to play. You're going to have to play around it. And as they come out randomly, you never know when things are going to change, and I kind of imagine you getting chased through the city or getting pushed back, this back and forth with all these different city locations. Really quite thematic as well, so I like this a lot. Next up is Menagerie Medley, back to Galaxy's Most Wanted like Band of Badoon. And like Band of Badoon, there are a lot of cards in this mod set. There's 9 here, 10 with the Badoon guys. I really like these sets because having a lot of cards means you're going to find them more often, they make more of an impact. Now, the downside is it could dilute the villain's deck a bit. You might see less of their encounter cards, they might do less of their special thing, but if I'm changing up the mod set, I want to see something different, so this is awesome. And just like Band of Badoon, loads and loads of boost effects that are going to change up the game. So these Silent Ghosts, you're going to get them coming as a boost effects, as well as encounter cards. That makes it really consistent. Starshock, the boost effect deals damage to every character you control. When a Starshock actually comes out as the encounter card, however, the Quick Strike has to deal indirect damage, which means it's going to be spread out damage as well. So you're getting a similar effect from the boost effect as the when revealed effect with these cards, which is really cool. So you're kind of consistently getting effects, but you don't know when, and it changes slightly. The Silent Ghost, if it comes in from its boost effect, you don't get the when revealed effect, but it's still pretty bad to get a minion as a boost effect, so it's, bad but less bad, and it's just really fun. And even if you are confused, you don't take damage, so something is always happening from these cards. Really cool, really funny. If you get a Star Shark, a Space Shark, that's just funny and cool at the same time. Really like this mod set. So before we continue with the video, I just want to quickly shout out Into the AM. I really love these guys. They make some amazing clothes, graphic tees, vintage shirts, but even just plain stuff. I really like it. I am, partnered with them, so yes, you could take my words as bias perhaps, but all I can say is most of my wardrobe has become Into the AM, which is kind of the biggest endorsement I can give them. I've got a discount code. If you use it, you get some money off. It also gives me a little back as well, full transparency. It helps support the channel. Really like it. And I think the designs are really cool. This is one of them now. Hopefully you guys can see it. I don't really have a setup that lets me go far back enough to show them off, but I really like them. They've got a lot of cool stuff. And yeah, thanks guys. Check them out and let's continue. Next up is State of Emergency, and this one is super fun. It also came with a hood, and it's just basically a bunch of side schemes, or a couple of treachery cards, which trigger the effects on the side schemes if they've been left in play. Now, what's really interesting is all these side schemes only have an acceleration icon. It is probably the least impactful negative icon these cards could have, and that might incline you, just leave them out. Especially in multiplayer where you can afford to. It's maybe not as much of a priority, but they have this cool treachery card built into State of Emergency, which when it comes up, even as a boost effect as well, again, it's impactful, it's going to happen, it will trigger the when revealed again on any side schemes you've left out. So in that regard, it is kind of pushing you to get rid of them. It's really interesting dynamic, but just even these side schemes themselves, sometimes a side scheme will come out and it's like, okay, I'll throw some forwarding at it, it's gone. Kind of like a minion. Oh, I just throw some damage at it, it's gone. Well, these are a bit more impactful because they have a when revealed effect. So even if you can just thwart them immediately, something happened. And it's pretty thematic, Feisty Heist, that was hard to say for some reason. That's really thematic for heroes to deal with, just some criminal stealing something. I think I like that kind of thing quite a lot. I'm looking forward to getting some kind of street level expansion at some point, hopefully. But you discard highest cost card from your hand. They've stolen something. And it's more interesting than just, discarding a random card or, getting to choose. I think that's really interesting. And so on and so forth with these. Really cool. My favorite side scheme modular in the game. At number 4, you guys knew it was coming up. I probably put Dragon in the thumbnail or something. I love the fantasy set. I love the fantasy genre as well, as it so happens. But these are mainly minions with a beneficial effect when they're defeated. And I think that's so satisfying. Oh, scary problem, but you deal with it and you get a benefit. I want to see this more. The Mojo Mania scenario pack just gives so many good mod sets. Really, really fun. And kind of unique. The Goblin can only take damage from a certain resource type, whereas the Dragon takes double damage from a certain resource type. And I think playing more into resource types is also something that is maybe underutilized. Have to have these certain resources to remove an attachment. I don't care about that. This is really interesting, kind of a deeper layer of interaction, which is very, very fun. And yeah, Dragon, awesome. I talked about it at the start of the video. Really like this fetch quest, very funny, very thematic. I like how it works. Oh, look, boost effect. It's impactful. It's going to come in and do something, but it's not too punishing either. Just really good. One of the easier mod sets I would say on this list, and I just really enjoy it every time. How could I not put the Infinity Gauntlet on here? I think I like this a lot more than most people, especially recently. I've been using this a ton, because here's the thing. One of the reasons I like that difficulty increase that we talked about at the start is because, I'm a content creator for this game, but before that I was a deck builder, and I'm generally pretty nerdy and I like to be challenged, and I play on expert all the time, and I don't even try and optimize all my decks, and I still find most of the villains a bit too easy in this game, at least, the bottom half of them. The Infinity Gauntlet is one of my favorite ways to make them more difficult. Now, I wouldn't recommend putting this on the most difficult villains unless, you really like a challenge, in which case it still works. But throw this on, I don't know, Crossbones, Absorbing Man, Rhino, even Sandman. I think it's kind of interesting. And what it does is it gives the villain +1 scheme and +1 attack, but every other activation, a stone, Infinity Stone, is going to do something bad, and it might stun you or heal the villain. And that's good for some of these easy villains, which just get obliterated from a little bit of damage because, sometimes, this villain, maybe if I play it long enough, one of the encounter cards will be tough, but they don't have that much hit points, you just blast through them. Well, there's a couple of cards in here which stop that being so easy. The Reality Stone stops you building up so much. The Space Stone adds quite a lot of pressure on, because the Space Stone, generally, when the minion is brought in, that minion will also activate as you're at that stage of the villain phase where minions will activate. And it's just really fun. I don't think it's as difficult as some people make out. I sometimes feel like it's worse on the villains that put you under high pressure from the very beginning. But on the other ones, you kind of, especially in solo play, you have that first attack where there's no stone out on the board and you're fine. And it kind of gives you that breathing room before it starts to hit you with these effects, mostly every other turn. In multiplayer, it's a bit scarier, but since someone can defend and you can see the stone is out beforehand, you can kind of steer where the effect goes, which adds a level of tactical play. And I've talked about this one too much, but I just like the Infinity Gauntlet. I think it's really, really fun and well done. At number 2, we have Black Tom Cassidy, and I will reveal now, I had to limit myself from putting too many minion sets into this video. I put like 5 in here still. It's still half the video, but I originally had like 8. And of my top 20, it's probably like, I don't know, 15. I really like minions in this game. And I will spoil, reveal, this is my favorite minion set in the game. And it's largely not down to Black Tom Cassidy himself, the namesake, but the Creeping Willow minions. These are absolutely genius. Look, there's a boost effect. It's going to have a consistent impact, and the boost effect reflects what the minion does, because if when that minion attacks, you get stunned, the boost effect is getting stunned. Really cool. I already like that, and it's thematic because it's Creeping Willow. So, Black Tom Cassidy is, even if he's not on the board, he's in the background, and he's, manipulating these vines and things, and they are kind of constricting, and it's awesome. But this card, it's really a cheat card for great minion design. You could put Guard, Quick Strike, and a forced response that has a negative effect if it hits the player on anything, and it's just great. Guard means you have to deal with it, but rather than just being a bag of hit points, which is what I feel like some minions sometimes break down to a little bit, it's got a Quick Strike, so it's always going to make an impact, rather than just, a tiny bit of damage, I'll let it hit me. If it hits you, you are stunned. But then, okay, I'll block with an ally. But if it defeats an ally, it's only prevented 1 damage. It wasn't a great use of that ally. Maybe it hits the ally, now they're stunned, and they've only got, 1 less hit point. It's still quite bad to block this with allies, but it's quite bad to let it hit you as a hero. It's such an interesting decision. And hey, the side scheme, Black Tom Cassidy, that's all pretty good, but Creeping Willow is just a 10 out of 10 encounter card, in my opinion. They can't all be kind of that difficult and impactful, I think, but, I would love to see more of that already hitting you on all these different fronts. Really, really fun stuff. And even though this is quite difficult in all the fronts it hits you, that zero scheme does mean you can flip down Alter Ego and kind of recover or deal with things a little bit slower at your own time, which isn't too bad. I think that's kind of a slightly forgiving thing, a slightly forgiving mechanics, a bit like how the dragon, once you defeat that horribly big minion, you get some cards. I like that kind of thing. I think that's cool. Up next for my number one pick, I kind of cheated, but hear me out. I picked multiple, but the game, the scenarios in Marvel Champions are modular. I can put more than one modular into an encounter set if I like, even if it only recommends one. And that's what I like to do with the Infinity Gauntlet. I will put that in on top of whatever else because the cards actually never go into the encounter deck. It's a little bit similar here, so I want to talk about all three in one go. And if you watch the channel a lot, you know where this is going. Flight, Telepathy, and Super Strength are my favorite mod sets in Marvel Champions. I talk about these a lot. They all have an attachment with the setup and permanent keyword, which means the attachment starts the game in play. These are mod sets, just like Infinity Gauntlet, which affect the game from turn 1. That is amazing. That is super impactful, super interesting, and it really is changing up the scenario more than just, the encounter deck and what you get from that. It's a baseline change, and I absolutely adore that kind of thing. I want to see more. We got more in Age of Apocalypse. I just want as much of this as I can get. And it was hard to pick one. I really think they all deserve to be talked about, but they're not different enough in their effect to, take separate slots. So I wanted to show off more mods in this video. But yeah, honestly, Super Strength, if you find stuns and status cards too good, just throw this onto any villain which doesn't have steady or stalwart normally, and it's going to, introduce that kind of different thing there. But it's also really thematic, because all the encounter cards from it are, really thematic. These are just really interesting ways to change up difficulty. For my last point that I set out at the start, powerful difficulty adjustment, these are 10 out of 10 in my opinion. I've said it before in other videos, they kind of feel like Expert Plus to me, or, I guess Standard Plus if you use them in Standard mode. I always play Expert because I'm a nerd. But I really just love introducing these, and the theme is really fun kind of to pair up. I love to put, like Flight on Green Goblin, Super Strength, you could put this on someone like Rhino or Juggernaut, although that's kind of pretty brutal. But what if you give Flight to a villain, which is, it's completely ridiculous to have, the ability to fly? Or if you give a really spindly, kind of more manipulative villain Super Strength, what if suddenly, Ebony Maw is punching you in the face for a bunch of damage? Suddenly, they are really, really strong, and I just think it's so interesting to do that kind of thing. So yeah, these are my number one pick, and I love them so much. That really concludes our look. We've got a good mixture of minions and other sets here. I really like all these sets. My initial list, when I went through all the 92 mod sets we have, I picked out like 22 or something, and I really want to show them all off. But I really think this highlights some of my absolute favorites. Hopefully this was interesting, and if you enjoyed it, please like, comment, subscribe, anything like that. I'd love to hear from you guys. I've got a Discord server as well, link in description. And yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.